Hey, everybody. I'm Jeff Pollard, solarpoweredpeople.org, and Jeff Pollard 11 on Instagram. We have another great episode with another great guest from the East Coast. Who are you? What are you about?
Hi, I'm Becca Wertheimer, and I own a business called Storied, where I audio interview people about their life stories to give as a gift to their loved ones.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, in a way, just to put in perspective, if I were to divulge some things right now, you would strip the visual and make something of it?
Exactly, exactly. So I do both in-person and remote interviews. And when I do the remote interviews, I use a platform called Riverside, which is similar to Zoom in that you can see each other, but only the audio tracks get recorded. And then I edit the interviews for kind of continuity's sake. And I add a little bit of music to the beginning and to the end. And then I send it to you in a Dropbox link to listen to. And I also save it on a little USB card. And then it's yours and you can give it to whoever you want, pass it along to whoever you want.
Wow, how did this come to be?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a longer story, but kind of the quicker version is I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade. That's what I've always done. I've worked with families and children, and the last job I had, I was working with young people that have had a first psychotic episode. And I loved the work. I love this great team. I loved the work I was doing. I also have two kids. Who are now 11 and 13. But at the time when I was doing this work, my father had died, and then I got breast cancer for the first time a year later. And so I just had a lot of life stuff going on. And when I was at my dad's memorial service, this was back in 2015, all these wonderful, beautiful stories were shared about him. And the whole time I kept thinking, like, why do we save all these stories to share until after someone is gone? Why don't we share what we love, what we admire, what we've learned from people, and stories about their lives now instead of waiting until they're gone? So that, and then I kind of had all these different life events that just piled up, and I got pretty depressed in 2019, and I left my job, and then I started Storied, and it was really kind of my husband and I were raking leaves one day. I live in Portland, Maine, and we were raking leaves in the fall, and he was like, "Why don't you start a business where you record people's stories? You love talking to people." And I was like, "That's wild. I can't do that." And then yet it just kind of percolated. So I percolated a bit, and then here I am. Then the pandemic hit, so I had to kind of switch to doing remote interviews, and now I do a combination of remote and in-person interviews.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
one, sorry for the negative things that happened to you,
Oh,
but I'm glad
thank
that
you.
you were able to find something from that. Is there like an example or a fun one that you have, leaving out people's personal information, but do you have like just one that you've done? Maybe you've recorded, maybe your husband
Yeah.
helped or something. I just would love to hear
Yeah.
a story.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I do a couple different types of interviews. So one is like a full life story with somebody where we kind of start with their childhood and their family and then kind of up through their life. And I like to kind of get people's stories, I like to get their stories, but then also take time to reflect back on their stories and like kind of the meaning that they have attached to them. So those are really fun. I do like whole life story interviews. But honestly, some of my favorite ones to do are just these shorter ones that are really, I call them my gift interviews, and they can be done for a family member, a friend, a loved one, anybody. And it's really like, think about somebody that you have in your mind that you love, right? And so I would say, Jeff, tell me about this person. How would you describe them to someone who doesn't know them? What do you really admire about them? What do you have a story or memory that kind of illustrates some of those qualities that you admire about them? What do you want to make sure this person knows about how you feel about them? Because it's all those things that are so important and we think, but they're super awkward to say to somebody directly, and so it's so awkward sometimes that you might not say it at all. So this is kind of like an intermediate, like I'm an intermediary where I can help kind of get some of those stories and reflections out of you, and you can give it to the person, but you don't have to say it to them directly.
Oh, that's cool. And I've met tons of people throughout the years that do have that type of shyness, probably myself included, where I'm like, how do I get this out? And so, it's nice to have somebody who can actually do that, kind of get it more out of me. Now, you just
Yeah.
really touched upon it, but I kind of want to
Mm.
you know, finish in the sense of, you know, is there like a document files, paperwork? Like, what are the logistics to get started? Now, you just talked
Yeah.
about, the verbal, how you do it for the audio recording, but is there like,
Yeah.
what's a quick step by step? Come to the website, do this,
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think always going to my website because that'll give you all the information and the process steps. So that is storiedme.com. So it's STORIEDME.com. But what I say to folks, and people can reach out to me over email. So sometimes people aren't ready to, book something with me or purchase a gift certificate for themselves or for a loved one. Email me and I can answer any questions that you have. But the process, how it usually works. So say you reach out to me, Jeff, and you want to do a life story interview with me. What I would do is I send you the kind of sample questions that I used to guide the interview so that you can kind of orient yourself to the questions and be thinking about them before we have the interview. And so some people like to be really prepared and come in with lots of written notes. Some want to kind of just wing it, but I like that, and either style is fine, but I like people to at least understand the type of questions that are going to be asked. So I send you the questions ahead of time. I can set up a phone call with you, like a 10 to 15-minute phone call, just to answer any questions. Sometimes people are really anxious and they just want to, they want to hear my voice too first, just to like know that I'm not trying to, I don't know, just because it
Yeah,
can be nerve wracking to talk to
sure,
somebody who
sure.
you've never talked to, right? And you're sharing a lot of personal stuff. So I can do a pre-interview call. I send you out the interview questions, and then we set up a time to meet and we do the interview. And really what I want it interview feels like kind of too formal. What I really want it to feel like is just a conversation that's recorded. I want people to feel comfortable. I want them to feel like they're really being listened to, and that then they have something, a product that they're excited to share with their loved one. So after the interview, it takes me a couple of weeks, but I edit all the interviews. Again, I edit for continuity's sake. I take out ums and pauses, and then I send it to you to listen to in a Dropbox link. And you can give me any feedback that you'd like. If there's any changes that you want me to make, any parts you want me to take out. Once you give it kind of your rubber stamp, then I send it to you in the Dropbox link so that you have it digitally saved there. And then I also save it on a little USB card and I send it out to you so you have a physical token of your story.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing all that. I hope
Yeah.
everybody enjoyed this quick glimpse into Storied, and her information is going to pop up throughout this video. So thank you so much, Rebecca, for having a chat with us.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Check her out, get your audio recording, say hi to a loved one, tell them how you feel. All right, take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, I have some exciting news. I wrote another kid's book, Uncle Duncle. I drew the pictures, I wrote the story. Please support, I'd really appreciate it. I also wrote The Giraffe and the Lion. That's another one, so collect them all if you have kids or if you don't. It's just a fun read. Really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.